Hello and welcome to NARC Live on Wednesday the 19th of November 2025, coming to you live from Norfolk on the east coast of England with Tammy M0TC.
Hello.
And me, David G3YLA. Great to see you. On tonight's show, QRP, it may just be the best grounding in amateur radio you can get. There's a claim for you from our very own Jim G3YLA. Amazing pictures from a carnival, but it's not Disney. And we find out what on earth this is. Do you know? We've had a few entries. But
I know.
Well, of course you know. If you know and you haven't already entered, you can pop it onto BATC or Facebook and we'll read your answers when we get to that part of the programme. First, club news, and it's more or less the same as last time in a way because I've got the same things to tell you in terms of the club. So forgive me if I'm going over stuff, and I'm going to start with 2026 subs because I happened to run the Monday Night Net on Monday because Steve couldn't do it and he asked me to step in, and it was clear from the people that were on there that there was maybe a little bit of confusion about our 2026 subs. So I'll keep it basic. I won't tell you all the reasoning behind it and everything, but basically if you are a current member and you paid already and you're a member of NARC now, then you will get a £5 discount on the subs next year, which means you'll pay £5. Our subs is still £10 for new members or returning members, but for if you are already a member, we're passing on £5 basically because we've had a good year financially and we feel this is the best way to share that success with every single member. Details of how to pay it. We would rather you pay by backs. That's the best way for us. And you put in as a pay by backs. The details are on the newsletter and on the website, and our bank details are all on there. It's a NARC, it's a business account, and you just pay there. We ask you to put subs and your call sign as the reference. If you have recently changed your call sign, we would ask you to put in brackets your old call sign as well as the one you use now. I'll talk about that in a moment as well. Now, the second thing I'd just like to remind you about is our Christmas dinner, which is on the 17th of December at the Village Inn. It's a Wednesday as well, so it's the Wednesday before Christmas, so it'd be nice time to have it. The club is subsidising it a bit as well, so it's only going to cost £16 per member, and that is a 3-course dinner. Lots of different choices. The menu is on the newsletter. I sent one out earlier this afternoon, and it's also on our website, and you can download it from the website. And here is one that Tammy made earlier.
Dun, dun, dun. Have you picked what you're going to have?
No, have you? I haven't paid it yet. Should I ought to, didn't
No,
I?
you shouldn't tell
So I'm telling everybody
say,
that.
yes, I was
Oh, yes, I
on the
paid it.
list.
Right. Anyway, there's a great choice there. If that doesn't make you hungry, if you haven't had your dinner or tea yet.
It's making me hungry.
Yes, that's right, and me. There we go. Lots and lots of choices, though. Don't feel that on your television because you'll never get it in the post. But anyway, have a look. It's there. If you want a printed version and you're going to the club next Wednesday, I'll printed out 20 of these and we'll give them out then and you can pay for them then and give the form in. We would ask for payment when you send the form and vice versa, so that you don't email me a form, for example, and say I'll pay cash at the club next Wednesday. Please, if you can imagine 70 people or so potentially coming, if I have lots of people doing that, I'll never keep up with it. So ideally, if you're going to pay on a paper version, put it in an envelope with the cash. That's fine. Don't pay by cheque, please. I should mention that. If you're doing it online, you can just fill in the form online, email it to me, and then pay by backs to the club. I don't want to make more of this than I'm trying to. We're trying to be honest, and you know, we have a lot of members at the moment. We have over 250 members, and if you imagine all of those, lots of £5 coming in, as well as lots of £16 for this dinner, we have to correlate it and bring it together, the treasurer and myself. So that's why I'm asking for, please sort of keep them together. Don't pay together. If you can pay for subs separately from the dinner, that would be great as well, because we've just got to make some sense of that. I had a look this afternoon and we had nearly 60 people have now rejoined already. So it's just over 20% of the club have already rejoined. Now, one other thing I want to say on that, by the way, you need to pay by the 31st of January 2026 if you want to renew at that special £5 price. So the dinner is there as well. I've explained about that. And the other thing I'd just like to mention is call sign changes. I know quite a few of you have changed call signs. Some of you have told us, frankly, some you haven't. And you've just put that maybe on your Christmas booking form or something like that. We don't know any other way unless you tell us. Ofcom and the RSGB or anything, they don't tell us when you've changed your call sign. Why would they? It's a private thing, really, a personal thing. So please help us. If you would like a badge, we'll happily get a badge ordered for you, and it will cost you £2.50 unless you are an intermediate licensee changing from 2E0 or 2E1 to M8 or M9, and because that's kind of Ofcom are obliging you to do it, then we'll pay for your badge. So I hope that's reasonably clear. I've tried to keep it as concise as I can. While we're talking about club issues, on Wednesday, December the 10th, which is a few weeks' time, it was due to be a NARC Live, or will be a NARC Live, but the speaker for that night has just cancelled or postponed their talk. Now, Tammy and I are thinking about doing an online Christmassy type talk. Not a quiz, rather, a competition. You may remember in the bad old days of COVID, we did this around Christmas time. And it's quite a lot of work, but we're very happy to do it if you would like it, because it really does depend on you interacting and being part of it. We'll probably open up a Zoom for all members as well, so you can join in that way and you'll be able to enter your answers and things like that. We've yet to come up with the games. Obviously, we're not going to reuse what we did. We might have a revisit of some things. We've still got still got some props, haven't we, of things?
We have got a few props.
Was it called Name That Tune? That was a bit of a disaster, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, because Kevin couldn't count.
That's right. Anyway, if you remember those days, I guess we were doing that in 2020, 2021, and maybe 2022.
Don't know.
Online Christmassy party. It's really, we weren't planning to do it, but because a speaker has postponed, we need to put something on that night, and we were thinking of doing it. So if you would like that, maybe just drop us a quick note and say, yeah, we'd love that, we'll take part. And then if we get enough people saying that, we'll do it. Now, from club news on to members news. Now, we've got a little video to show you now, and we'll start the video now and tell you a little bit about it. As many of you know, Kevin M0UJD or G8RZZ has recently changed his job, and he's now an electrical engineer for a biogas company, which often takes him away from home. Last week, he was working in Shepton Mallet in Somerset, and by happy coincidence, he was there when they have this amazing carnival. Now, I don't know about you, but if you've been to, say, Disney or something like that, you've seen wonderful carnivals that they've got, typical of Kevin taking pictures of motors and things like that. But isn't this incredible? This is going through the streets of Shepton Mallet, and these floats, he said it's impossible really to describe it. This was some of the video that he took, and he showed us at the weekend, and we thought we had to share that with you. And can you see the scale of it? And there's loads, aren't there?
Yeah.
We were watching videos from Kevin for about half an hour. We haven't got that many. Look at the size of this. So if you have been
so many things are moving, it's amazing.
Absolutely. And things are turning over and round and upside down and stuff. It's incredible. And it's just Shepton Mallet. I don't know much about Shepton Mallet. I've never been. Have you? Ever been?
Don't think so.
No, but it's incredible. This goes on every year apparently and gets bigger and brighter. Now the music which goes with this, which is wonderful to hear, because we stream this, we could be in trouble and we could even be kicked off Facebook. We didn't really get kicked off Facebook, did we? No, so we haven't included the music, I'm afraid. But I did think this was wonderful. Some of these have a generator truck. Oh, look at that, their power generation. Kevin being Kevin with his tech, he was just amazed that the big generators were being pulled behind these amazing floats. Anyway, good job it wasn't raining that night.
There it is.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for sharing that, Kevin. Now some other news now. And Tom, G6TOM, your new call sign, got it right, hopefully. He's written to us and shown us these pictures and said that there's a new construction on the airbase, which is near him. He said there's 3 cameras on the top of this tower, and he thinks it's anti-drone equipment. And it's not secret or anything, because he could see this with a long lens from his garden. On the safety rail, he can see 2 infrared lights, which he says are like the eyes of the devil, from my kitchen window at night, about 1 kilometre from his home, not a mile, 1 kilometre. Although this makes him feel rather self-conscious when he's in his kitchen, he would rather like that platform in his garden for antennas. Yeah, I get that. Amazing stuff. I reckon he could be right, anti-drone.
Yeah, maybe.
Probably what it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for sharing that, Tom. And then finally, and thank you for sharing all your news this week. This is what we like to do in these bits here. Martin, G7UGB, says, I've got a NARC Live gadget of the week. He says, I've attached a few photos of the latest gadget from AliExpress that he's received. It's a small portable microscope and it's quite good. It's great for looking at IC details and circuits. It can be handheld or used on its own stand. It's autofocus and it can be linked to a PC for a larger picture. Pop an SD card into it and it will take photos as well. You can see him using it there, and it's like a magnifier, but it's digital with a camera underneath and a little screen on the top. And the cost, well, we've probably all stopped being amazed now, but that's 20 quid, £19.99 he paid for that, which is ridiculous. That was landed into this country. He says, I hope this may be of interest to you. I spend too long looking at Ali. Haha, he says. Well,
is this confession time?
Is this confession time? I didn't do it as a result of Martin's email because we only got that a couple of days ago, but I actually bought one of these myself. This is a similar one. It hasn't got a built-in stand actually like Martin's, but I thought I could maybe show it to you. It is amazing. You know, we all know, I suppose, it's what is amazing what they can make in China and ship it and deliver it to your house for 10 quid, but 20 quid. I think this one was about 16 actually. So I'll turn it over. I don't want to dazzle you there, but actually if you hold it onto that, can we, Tammy? Can we put it on there? So if we show that there, you could see there's a magnifier. There's the camera and some lights around it there. There's the screen. I'm sorry, Martin, I'm not stealing your thunder here, but have a look at this. This is my script. Yes, there is one. Now have a look at that. If I show you that, can you see? Close up. And in fact, I did it on a colour magazine earlier. I'll just quickly show you this. No, this is interesting, Tammy.
Bless you.
Because we all know that colour magazines and colour pictures are made up of lots of little dots. And you can actually make that out if you have a look. See that? Look at that. There's the colours that are making up a colour photograph of Radcom. So anyway, Martin, thank you very much for identifying that. I had to see one. I bet you'll all be flocking to your eBays or your Ali's Expresses or something like that to get one. It is a very, very useful tool. And because it lights it up as well, it sort of serves a double purpose. If you're getting a little bit older, you'll probably find the same as me and you can't see things quite as well as you did. So thank you for sending all of those bits of information. Tammy, I've done too much talking. Over to you for little people.
Yeah. Trouble is when you go on AliExpress, you know.
You're telling me?
You need everything that comes up.
Who gets more deliveries, do you think, from AliExpress out of us two? Answers on a postcard or on an email.
Not sure. Anyway, what are we talking about? We're talking about little people. Right, here's little people. This is seasonal. So here you go. With all the autumn that is around at the moment, I thought that looked really cool. So it looks like leaves on the ground.
Looks like a sausage roll to me.
It's a croissant, actually.
Oh, it's a croissant. Oh, I see.
Fallen croissant.
And a
it does look like leaves, though, doesn't it?
It does look like leaves. And there's a lot of them. We've got a man coming on later, you know, he'll tell us all about what season we're in and everything.
Stuff.
Oh, everything. He knows nothing he doesn't know about the weather. Look at that, amazing. It's miniature-calendar.com, a new picture every day on this wonderful Japanese website. And Tammy picks one out for us every week. It's really good. And the croissant as well. It makes you even more hungry. Yeah. Not only have we shown them pictures of the Christmas dinner, but anyway, so if you've got any news for us, drop them to us on the usual address, radio@dcpmicro.com. We'll be back here in 2 weeks' time. I think we'll just about be in December then, won't we? Maybe? Yeah. Will we? Yeah. We'll be in December then. And we've got 2 concurrent weeks online as well. So radio@dcpmicro.com. We'd love to see your pictures, your stories and everything else. Maybe you're going to Christmas Light Switch On. We're going to the Christmas Light Switch On in Norwich tomorrow.
We are.
In fact, we're on the tech side of an outside broadcast for Future Radio. So that's what we're doing with tomorrow afternoon. They're doing a live broadcast from 5 o'clock till 8 o'clock. I didn't plan to mention that or advertise it, but they're a charitable organisation, so it's good to mention them really. If you want to.
Henry M0ZA says the Shepton Mallet Carnival 2025 is actually on YouTube. If you want to.
Okay, Henry, thank you very much for that.
Got an hour or so to spare, probably.
Yes.
But it is brilliant, really good, isn't it?
Yep. By the way, Ralph, I think he quite likes that magnifier, but he does say, "How can a poor Scotsman afford £20?" I think they can.
I think they can.
Okay, what on earth is this? All right, we're going to go on to that now. So let's look at the competition. 2 weeks ago, I asked you, what on earth is this? Now, this is really surprised me because we should declare we were given one of these as a gift, weren't we? By one of the club members, and said, not only is it a gift for you, but I think it made a really good thing for What on Earth. So that's what we've done. And let's reveal what people think that is. I had no idea when it was given to us. Did you, Tammy, by the way? Did you know what it was? When well, we can say it's Tom. Actually, G3YLA gave us this rather furtively, didn't he?
I don't think I knew what it was.
A few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, here we go. Let's have the first answer was Steve G3YLA, who says this week's item looks like a brass and titanium toothpick. Am I right? He says.
Stuart G4AFF, I think this week's What on Earth is a portable toothpick. I carry one all the time, which looks quite like this.
We should go now to Ralph 2M1 RHT, our Scottish correspondent, who says, what on earth is this? Ah, I remember. This is the screw-in instrument which G3YLA used to give weather forecasts on the BBC, which again I clearly remember was almost accurate on one occasion. Oh dear. He wouldn't say that if he was in the same county, Jim. The keyring end was used to keep his keys safe in case he lost them. Much respect, Jim, from a fellow amateur. P.S. Can you pay for a poor Scotsman's NARC Christmas meal? I wouldn't fall for that anyway.
No.
Guys, we better not get onto pizzas and stuff that's on there anyway. Mike G8EY says he thinks it's a vintage toothpick container. Bruce G4KZT, these are online, these are answers. Is it a toothpick? I mean, how could that be a toothpick?
Don't know. Martin, hang on. No, I'm not on the right one here,
Yeah, you can, that one, that's right.
Oh, no, I was actually on the one underneath. Martin G6WNN, I think the current What on Earth is a portable brass toothpick.
Okay, but we haven't done that one yet, have
we? No, we can read that one.
Okay.
Don't tell everybody I missed one out.
We're not really going up and down the script, are we? Right, Martin, G7UGB says, I have one of these objects that I purchased from the one and only AliExpress. I think he's got a problem, don't you?
I think he has, yeah.
From whom I spend too much of my pocket money on. Yes, we know, Martin. And that the station master doesn't know about. Who can he mean? It's a small, sharp, pointed what's-it that is used for removing very small stones from very small horses.
You need one of them to get the... actually, because we don't know what is on the other end.
No, we better not.
No, I better not.
We'll talk about it later. Stuart G7KBF says, I put the names of some items in a hat so I could pick out an answer. Needing more help, I spoke to a dentist who was previously a solicitor who wanted the tooth and the whole tooth and nothing but the tooth. This gave me an answer of a toothpick. The pick is unscrewed and reversed, giving a toothpick with a handle.
Bob GASTU says, my guess is a tyre inflation gauge.
Well, at least it's different,
yeah.
Bob. Anyway, we had quite a few answers with
that.
that.
What do you think it is?
Well, got a wild idea.
It is a toothpick. Or actually, on the AliExpress packet that it came in, it says it could be a fruit picker as well.
Didn't it say as well?
Well, it said that too, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Here we are, toothpick or fruit picker. Tom G6TOM gave us one of these each.
I've got one here.
Have you got one here? Do you want to show it in? It's a bit odd, so just better show it.
So unscrewing it, dun, 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 and then it comes out. It's like a weapon, isn't it?
I do, I know.
It screws in the other side.
I didn't have any idea.
Where are we?
What that was.
Yeah. It's ferocious.
But quite a few people have got one and seen one, so anyway. So thank you, Tom. You foxed some people, but gave us a lot of mirth anyway.
Going to do that up because that's a bit...
It does look a bit...
Like
that actually could be, seriously, considered a weapon maybe in a football.
Go through your finger with that.
All right. Anyway, thank you very much for that. Thanks to all the entries as well. And I'm seeing some of the conversation coming up. Well, it's quite funny, really. If we have time, we'll return to some of the dialogue that's going on Facebook there. But I might as well just tell you now, actually. Mike M7TTT, in response to Ralph, says, how can a poor Scotsman afford £20? Mike M7TTT says, sell one of the 3,500 distilleries, which is an enterprising way. Okay, all right. Anyway, thank you very much for that. Let's have a look now.
Oh, somebody else said, oh, no, we've missed loads of things on Facebook here.
We?
Well, us.
Toothpick.
Tom, who gave it to us, said, I can reveal I have one for moving and placing SMD components before soldering, also described as a fruit picker. Tracy Edwards said she thought it was a dog whistle, and Ralph says toothpick, not much wisdom in that.
Oh, I see what you did there, Ralph.
Shocking. Let's get to the next one, shall we?
We should. Okay, see if you're smart with this one. Don't leap to conclusions when I ask you, what on earth is this? Are we allowed to say what it isn't?
Well, I think we should say that obviously that looks like a pair of pliers.
Yes, and it's not.
And it's
for
but
something.
it's for a specific thing. So we don't want you to just tell us, oh, it's a pair of pliers, basically.
No, that's right. So have a good look. Have a look at the end, obviously, of that pair of tools. It's for doing something very special and quite topical. Can we say that?
Maybe.
Am I allowed to get that far without a slap on the wrist?
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of people were talking about what on earth on the Monday Night Net, and I ran it, and they were fishing about the one.
I hope you didn't tell them anything.
I did say I can't, even though you weren't in the room. I said I will get slap wrist because Tammy will somehow know that I've helped.
I'll dog you in.
Anyway, so there we are. That will be on Facebook and on our newsletter, and you'll be able to enter that, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks' time. We'll reveal what that is for. If you don't know what it's called, that's okay. What is it for? Something very specific. We are always interested in more what on earth pictures as well. So if you have an unusual object or a tool or something like that that you think might fox people, but have half a chance of getting it, then please do send pictures to us, and we'll be happy to reveal them. So before we meet tonight's guest, who I'm sure most of you already know, let's just have a look at what's happening in the club this week. So Sunday at 7 p.m, it's the GB2RS News on GB3MB. On Monday, it's the Monday Night Net with Steve, G3YLA hosting. Although I would just put in a plea here. Sometimes, give Steve a break. It's a lot to go on doing this every week. I stood it on Monday, and maybe some of you would like to step in and do one or two over the Christmas break. That would be really good. Next Wednesday, November the 26th, it is an informal social evening, and it's Bright Sparks for our youngsters. They're going to be making a little Christmas decoration.
Yep.
Little LED,
a bauble,
an LED bauble with lots of flashing lights and everything else. It's a social informal for everybody else, and it is the last in-person meeting at CNS this year. We've of course got our Christmas dinner in a couple of weeks after that at the Village Inn, but that is the last meeting at CNS for this year. It's next Wednesday. And as I said earlier, please do keep sending us your stories and your pictures, and of course we've got this card which we're very happy to send to anybody who you feel will be cheered by a card from your club at this time of year. So now we're getting on to meeting our guest, and I think Jim doesn't really need an introduction, and I can't give him a good enough introduction, I think, for someone. Most of you will know Jim from lots of his life, particularly as a weather forecaster, and more recently, of course, as a propagation expert to help the forecasting of propagation. But tonight he's here not to talk about that. He's here to talk about QRP. And there's going to be some people, Jim, who are not going to know about that. Anyway, good evening.
Hello, David. Hello, everybody. It's one of those hidden mysteries of amateur radio. People sort of are aware of it. Quite a lot of people haven't tried it. And I think what I'd like to do is just say why it's something you should get involved with. It's such a wonderful thing. Could be a bit controversial because I shall have to mention CW. But apart from that, I think you'll find there are things in here that'll actually make you think perhaps there's a bit more we can get out of the hobby than just switching on a big commercial rig. So it's all about how to make the hobby more fun, but also how to I guess what I'm trying to say is to do QRP properly, you've got to understand a bit more than just switching a rig on and seeing who's about. So it encourages you to find out how the bands work and how the rig works for that matter, but also propagation and all those things which I've got a buzz about. So I won't be offended if you don't want to do it afterwards, but at least you'll be aware of why the people who do it.
And is your definition of success of tonight, Jim, if you see on eBay tomorrow lots of linears and 100-watt regular rigs and things like that, you'll know it's been a success?
No, we need the linears to keep the shack warm. We can just run those into dummy loads. So
All right. Well, as always, if you're watching this live, you can ask Jim questions at any time, and we encourage you to
please.
as well, and make comments on either BATC or Facebook, and we'll be sure to read them to Jim at the end. But Jim, I'm going to hand over to you now. I won't interrupt you anymore. We look forward to asking you questions and making comments at the end. Thanks.
Yeah, good. Thanks, David and Tammy. Well, I just think with this, I started off with the subheading of possibly the best thing about amateur radio, but that's a bit subjective because for some of you it won't be clearly. And I'm not about to say that unless you like QRP, you're not in amateur radio properly. Unless you're in CW, you're not in amateur. That's not the case. Everybody has their own favourite bits of the hobby. What I want to try and do is to leave you thinking, well, actually, there is a little bit more to this, and perhaps I should give it a look. So there we are. QRP. QRP stands for low power, and it's one of the standard Q codes, a bit like QSL and QTH. QRP just means low power, which I'm sure you already know. So as a topic, it kind of encapsulates most of the positive things that I think exist in amateur radio. Things to do with understanding how the electronics works, things to do with understanding how propagation works, things to do with understanding how band procedures work to your advantage. You know, none of this is done just because it's there. It's done to make operating more rewarding or more successful and so on. So there's a lot to be said for it that doesn't normally come out when you just mention the phrase QRP. So this is lifting the bonnet on QRP, in my view. So firstly, you've got to ask yourself, is it basic amateur radio? And a big emphatic no to that, because amateur radio can be taken at all levels. Some of us don't have a lot of time to get into it deeply. Some of us might not be professional electronics experts. We all have different levels of skills, but that shouldn't stop us getting maximum enjoyment out of the bit we do. But one thing you will miss out on is the enjoyment of QRP if you think it's just basic and not worth exploring, because you'd need actually more than a basic understanding of amateur radio. In fact, I'd go so far as to say it's one of the modes, one of the operating styles, if you like, that actually forces you to develop extra skills to do with the hobby. So it certainly requires dedication, I can tell you that, to make maximum use of minimum power. It's an easy thing to say, but dedication comes in several forms. You know, it could mean spending time on the bands to work a pilot when it's not too busy. It could mean spending time building equipment to run QRP instead of just switching a commercial rig on, and all of that combined with understanding how signals propagate across the globe, it really does develop most of the skills that our radio license demands in terms of self-training in the art of communication. So you know, I could almost stop here and say, right, go off and do QRP, because you know that's all you need to know. But we can do a bit more. So what we're going to talk about is power levels. Just set that up properly. We're going to talk about sort of rigs that people can use. We're going to talk about what you do if you wanted to do homebrew QRP. We're going to have to mention CW. I'm sorry, but it's going to have to come out. Antennas, we'll have to mention those. Operating techniques are really, really important for QRP. And portable, honestly, if you haven't done QRP portable, you haven't had one of the best bits of amateur radio. Being outside in the fresh air on a sunny day like the club David will be advertising in the summer again, our trip up to the coast at West Runton. It's just such a great day out, and there's nothing to stop you doing that at any time of the year. So going portable is terrific fun, and I'll leave you with some pointers for groups and clubs that you can sign up to online and go to their websites and see a bit more about it. So it's a mix of equipment, it's a mix of aerials, it's a mix of location and operating skills, and I just think it's just that wonderful collection of things that are good fun to do. Right, okay. So the QRP power levels, incidentally, on the right is a picture of Sprat, and that's the house magazine of the GQRP club. most countries, international radio organisations, have their own little subgroup for encouraging QRP. With us, it's the GQRP Club, and it was started by the Reverend George Dobbs many years ago. And in fact, he's been to the club and given us a talk, and very wonderful sort of home experimenter and an evangelical pursuer of QRP because of the fun it can bring. And until you do it, you maybe don't realise how much fun that can be. Sprat is the magazine, and it's a really great magazine, full of circuits and interesting comments about what people are working and so on. So definitely have a think about joining the GQRP Club, or at least going to their website. So, QRP power levels. It has varied a bit over the years. Now, back in 1974, it was nominally 3 watts output from the transmitter. But in the mid-1980s, because of different levels in different parts of the world, it was kind of brought together quite sensibly to be a pan-galactic 5 watts TX output. So you know you're dealing with QRP if you're running 5 watts output from the PA. And this is TX out, so it's not once you've done things with the antenna. So just think of the scope you can have by using some really good antennas with a QRP rig. It's incidentally 10 watts for PEP for SSB signals. I don't want anybody to come away from this talk thinking I'm anti-SSB. I'm not. I'm very pro SSB and very pro all the modes actually. But CW lends itself particularly well to building QRP rigs. But you can build some very nice SSB ones, and I want to say right from the outset, I'm talking about all the modes that people can use on QRP. And then we have if you don't think that's enough punishment and trauma, we have QRPP, which is the ultimate. It's like, I'm not feeling enough pain here. I need more pain. And that's 1 watt or less. People running rigs that give out milliwatts of RF. So the question might be, why would you do that? Well, you do it because of the thrill of getting a QSO running such low power, and also the chances are, if it's such low power, it's probably going to be a rig that you've built yourself. So you get this double bonus of satisfaction. It's probably worth saying the other thing. I don't know. There'll be some of you at home saying, "Well, I've got this nice big rig that I've spent a lot of money on, and it gives 100 watts, or it gives 200 watts, or whatever. QRP isn't for me. I've already got my rig." Well, there's nothing to stop you turning the wick down and just seeing what you can do with this low power level. I've done that with some of my big rigs, just as I have done with homebrew QRP rigs, and you can do that. And you would be surprised, I promise you, at what you can work. So anyway, GQRP Club would be the go-to organisation for becoming interested and getting a regular update through their Sprat magazine and so on. So thoroughly recommend that. And then, you see, you do get it mentioned now and again. Now, this month's Radcom, the December Radcom, has got several articles in it, several bits and pictures that relate to QRP. So there is this extreme version, which I mentioned, of QRPP, so 1 watt or less. And there's a picture here of all the people who've submitted photos of their equipment they used for the 1 watt game. Now, this is something that several of us from the club have had a play with over the years. There's 2 events in the year, one in March and one in, I think it's October. And it's 3 hours, usually on a Sunday morning, I think, if I remember rightly, or it could be a Saturday. But anyway, the next one is the 29th of March next year. So pop that in your diary. It's called the 1 watt game. And for that 3 hour period, you go on the bands, on 20 meters, not the bands, it's a 20 meter one. You go on 20 meters with 1 watt or less, and see who you can work. And I've done it for a few years and worked 3 or 4 people. I did think, well, all that time for 3, but to work across the pond on 1 watt, that's a pretty satisfying thing to do. But it encourages awareness of what the band conditions are like and all the rest of it, the types of antenna, and the size and smallness of the equipment is something else as well. So if you want to read up a little bit about that article, there's a paragraph on it in December 25's Radcom, pages 54 and 55. So that's fairly topical, called the 1 watt game. But lots of societies have their own QRP clubs. So the North American continent has the North American QRP-CW club, and they have an award which you can get, which is 1,000 miles per watt award. So that means having a QRP, you don't have to find somebody who's exactly 1,000 miles away. You just have to work somebody, and if you work out the distance and the power you're using, so you could be running 5 watts and work somebody 5,000 miles away. So it's an award for saying you're into this QRP thing, and you've got good ears, and you've got a reasonable antenna. So 1,000 miles per watt award is something to get. It's no mean feat. So rigs for QRP. I think the truthful answer to say is all of them. All the rigs can run QRP. You can back them off to 5 watts or less. Okay, it's not the most efficient way to run some of the big rigs, but it can be done, and you'd be amazed what you can do. So if, for example, you're in a location where you have interference problems with neighbours, instead of running 200 watts, run 5 watts and see how you get on, or decide to go out portable, and so on. So the big black boxes, sorry, I've gone on one. The big black boxes like this one up here in the top left of these images, they'll run QRP. There are specific QRP rigs, which will obviously run QRP. There's QRP labs. Remember, we've had talks at the club from Hans Summers, these wonderful kits. I've got 3 of them. Well, I'm building another one at the moment. I've got one for 20 meters, which I've done a lot of work with. I've got one for 40, which is just about finished. And I'm now having a winter project of a multi-band, multi-mode one. But they're such fantastic rigs and just a great feeling. Or you can be entirely off the wall with it. And like in the bottom right here, you can generate something entirely homebrew. And this form of construction is loosely called ugly bug construction, where you have ICs stuck upside down with the legs poking up and taking the leads off to the other components. But that too is satisfying. You can get in there and put your probes on and measure all the properties of the circuit, and it's just good. And it means you can translate something from a book, whether it be a magazine or a proper. Let's see if I can do that. Can I do that?
You underneath your chin, yeah. It's because you've got your background on. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we are QRP, but there are just so many books about QRP power and things like this, and this is full of circuit diagrams and rigs you can build. I mean, you know all this, but there are all these books out there which contain wonderful moments in amateur radio that you can get involved in if you decide, yeah, I think I can build that. I can have a go at it. And this ugly bug construction down at the bottom here is one way of doing that. So what else can we say apart from all the different ways of getting a rig that will work QRP is to say, well, then you can be encouraged to go out portable. Batteries are smaller, the gear is smaller. It's just a pocket full of stuff or one pocket of your rucksack, and off you go and sit out in the sunshine in the deck chair and do a bit of QRP operating. Take the whole family with you, and they can do whatever they're wanting to do out on the field, and you can pop the aerial up and have a little bit of fun with that. But do give it, if you think you might be interested. make a mental note to come along to the clifftop event in July, I think it is usually in the summer when we do this portable event up at West Runcton. It's just such a great day out, and you'll immediately get QRP portable then. So this was sent to me by Martin, this picture, not the rig. He's kept his rig. And this is the BATC, which is a specifically designed QRP rig. It's designed by an Indian amateur, and it's got all the mod cons you'd expect of the big commercial, huge rig, footprint rigs you sit on the desk these days. But it's a tiny little thing, and it's got cat control. It runs an internal log. It can interface with the web. It's got a Raspberry Pi in there, sort of making it all happen. It does multi-mode, multi-bands. It really is everything you'd want from a little portable rig. 5 watts. And the next thing you'll do is be really surprised at what you can work with those 5 watts. So there's all sorts of different ways of attacking QRP. And I'm sure down at the club, if you bump into Martin down there, G7UGB, he'll be more than happy to tell you about how he's getting on with that rig and what it does. It's a fantastic little box. I remember seeing it when he brought it along one week. It's excellent, really good. The QRP rigs that I've been involved in have been the Hans Summers ones, the QCX kits and so on, where you get, now, not everybody thinks they want to take on construction, and you can buy some of these ready completed, so you don't have to make it yourself, but it is quite satisfying to do it that way. And the surface mount components are usually on the board to start with, so you don't have to get into those. So your job is to populate it with the resistors and the big components, wind some toroids and things like that. And the instructions for these QCX kits it's just wonderful. You get such a good insight as to what's going on in the circuit, and the description and the pictures that show you how to put the coils together. It really is a very, very good way to go to get started on QRP. So you've got to be prepared to take some time. You need a very fine soldering iron, but when it comes to, you say, well, I haven't got any test gear. Well, these things, this picture on the right, it shows the ubiquitous tweaking tool there, adjusting the circuit with the display, the results of the test measurements coming up in the little LCD screen. So they have built-in measurement circuits for setting it up and aligning it. How good does it have to get? It really is good work in the design department, and they're great fun to build. So that's something you could have a go at. So this was quite some time ago when I built my first one. In fact, a long while ago. And I've used the one for 20 meters a lot. You get 2 VFOs, so you can work split. There's virtually nothing in your operating style that you want to do that you can't normally do with one of these QRP rigs. So what your big rig will do, this will do. Although they're CW and data, they're not sideband, these ones. But his multi-mode stuff does allow you to do sideband. So you can do that as well. But you get all sorts of information coming out, an S-meter, and if you're not yet into CW, it's, don't worry about when it happens. Just be grateful that it happens to you at some stage. What'll happen is, in the meantime, you can get decoded CW appearing on the display, which will give you a heads up and enough to get the QSO out without actually being fully fluent. But it will hopefully encourage you to go the next 9 yards and get into CW. Make it your winter project. Then next year you'll be absolutely rocking it with QRP rigs. So the QCX kits are really good, and when you've finished it, you get this wonderful crib sheet as part of the documentation, which I separated out and got laminated in a plastic lamination, and I take that with me when I go portable, because a lot of these things, obviously with a small little LCD display, you're a bit stuck for knowing what all the functions are. Well, this is ideal, and you've got the code numbers for the different functions. You just plug those into your commands on the two pots, and up comes the function that you want to control. So there's nothing you can't do with it. It really is very, very good. So the whole thing about these is I guess, I mean, most of us don't do this sort of thing very often, going portable. You know, the weather isn't right, or you've got family stuff going on and you can't get away. So these rigs tend to get built and parked up on the shack bench, and then you think, well, it's about 3 months since I did this. Well, I can't remember how to work it, and that's it. It gets left on the bench. Don't do that, because you've done all the hard work building it. You can get your crib sheet laminated and just use it a few times at home every now and again, or even better, sit out in the back garden, you know, and test it. Here's another reprobate. This is my brother Dick, G3YLA, and we both built up little portable setups to take up to West Runcton, and the thing is, aerials on tripods and things and what have you. You can test it with your normal aerials or with your portable aerials, solar panel propped up on the floor there. You can do all these things. Make sure you get the rig working and you know you can put it together. So that's the thing. But you can have a lot of fun doing that, just sitting out in the back garden and having a test run with it. You'd be amazed what you could work. So this is what happened with my QCX kit. You can see it in its completed form, and a little paddle key. That's a palm paddle. I don't think they're made anymore, but it's a small box. It's magnetic base, so it will clamp magnetically like a limpet to the top of an FT817, for example. Any metal case rig, it'll love sitting on there, and it will be very stable. And this twin paddle in this case, what happens is if you push those levers forwards, not squeeze them, but push them into the case, the whole thing slides in and clicks, and the paddles, the delicate mechanism, is protected while you move it around in your bag, taking it to a portable trip. So it's a really good little paddle. Anyway, what I did with this, I got it finished a week or two before the CQ Worldwide contest, which is one of the big CW contests of the year, big international one. And although I'd worked quite a lot of random folk on the bands, random QSOs all over the shop. This is on 20 meters. It's a 20-meter rig. It was giving about 3 watts output. I didn't do any of the final adjustments. You can tweak the spacing of the coil turns to maximise the output a bit. But this was what I worked in CQ Worldwide. So a little tiny rig giving 3 watts out, although I put 5 watts in the thing. It was nominally a bit less than that. 70 QSOs I worked. 26 countries and 5 across the ponds. So all of that from that little thing there. It's just incredible what you can do. So don't ever believe people when they say, "Oh, you never work anything on QRP." If you plan it right and use the right time of the day, the right band, the right conditions, your chances of doing well with QRP are phenomenal. So I think what we're saying here is don't feel that QRP is a lesser option. It's a very strong option, and apart from using it as a home shack station just for the fun of it now and again, you can do very well portable, of course. The other thing, incidentally, in terms of maximising returns, a lot of contests. Not everyone's into contests, but if you are, there's a lot of contests which have QRP entry sections or single band entry sections. So you can maximise your returns by picking, say, QRP. If you were out there with a big commercial rig, one of the big black boxes, and you've got a typical urban style or village garden with not much land to put aerials up in, you are already compromised in what you can do. But if you go QRP, you're not so compromised because you've got the same power as everybody else, certainly no more than 5 watts. Whereas when you're in a big contest internationally, say, in the unlimited bit, there are people running 100 watts, running a kilowatt, some running even more, I dare say. So this gets you into a territory where the playing field has been levelled up a bit, and you can do surprisingly well with that by picking your own particular niche area to operate in. So let's. Oh no, what's gone wrong there? Why did that not change? Let's do that.
Use your right hand arrow, Jim. That might help. The right arrow on your keyboard.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. There we go. I think that's done it. Thank you, David. The space bar seemed to unblock it, but I don't know why it locked up. Anyway, this is a couple of pointers about homebrew QRP. Now I know we're not all home brewers, and some of us would have been home brewers in our younger years, and the eyesight is no longer. That I'm struggling. I'm 75 now, and I'm sort of not so good with the home brew as I used to be. And you need sort of, don't be embarrassed to get one of these big magnifying glasses with lights around it to do the detailed work. But once you start building something, you'd be amazed at how satisfying it can be to do that and just get a rig together that produces a result. It's not going to be the smartest looking rig on the bench. It's not going to be perhaps the best performer. It may be. There's no reason why it shouldn't be as good a performer as your big black box, but certainly will be the best at giving you maximum satisfaction, and also providing you with an unlimited, I fancy a different sort of rig, I'll experiment with this, or don't experiment with the whole rig. In here there'll be different sections that do different things in the rig. Say, the mixer circuit, I'll change that for a different design of mixer, and you can experiment with different elements of the construction. Now you're not going to be able to do that with your big rig, so it adds a new dimension to the hobby, a new sort of area to operate in, and then all of a sudden, if you work at it, you'll find things like these circuit diagrams are not anymore just something that you have to do for the license exam. I mean, you do have to do them for the license exam, but I want you to feel that this is kind of where the hobby lives. It's where you get new things in your mind to explore. You start to develop interest in circuits and so on, and there'll be plenty of people out on the bands who can help you out with things if you're not too clear on what's going on. And I dare say, although I haven't tried it, I'm not sure what would happen if you put a picture of a circuit diagram into a chat GPT type thing, others are available, and Claude and all those others, and said, what does this circuit do? It would be quite interesting to know what comes back. But it may not be the right guess, but it will give you a heads up as to what you're looking at. So make it a challenge to try and get behind the rigs that you're using by having a go at building a little one. That might be something that you enjoy more than you think. So the QRP encompasses that part of it as well, and for me it's one of the more interesting bits. Now you're not going to this thing here in the top right, I think it's in the current Radcom, this image, and you're not going to find that easy to cart up to the cliff top in your rucksack to West Runton. There'll be all sorts of damage going on in here. So there's a step between doing this and experimenting on the bench and actually having a go-to rig that will survive being lumped around in a rucksack while you climb up to the top of Skiddaw or whatever. So anyway, have that as something to do over the winter, and you might surprise yourself at how much fun it can all be. So why C? Well, it'd have to come to this. So why CW? Well, it's all about the benefit you get from having a narrower bandwidth in the receive chain, and it has that advantage really that could be from 2 to 3 S points. So that's got to be worth having. When you're only using 5 watts, you kind of want to get the most out of it. So if the band is unreliable and signals are fading and drifting about a bit, then being able to cope with a deep fade, 10 to 20 dBs of fade is quite a bit. So going to CW will mean that you survive that little episode. But to be honest, most of the time it doesn't really matter whether you're on sideband or SSB. But if you're in a noisy environment, and to be honest, there's a lot of folk now, myself included, who live in an environment in the modern world where there's noise like you wouldn't have imagined decades ago. When I started on 40 meters, the noise floor was S1. And now it's S6 or 7. So QRP has a big hurdle to cross, doesn't it? If you're trying to break through that, you've got to do enough to get the signal out, which means paying a bit of thought to which modes are going to be best. And CW would certainly be right up there in my book with that. That's not, you can't try the others, but it will be a bit more limiting. And just so you know, that sideband isn't totally game over. 1 year at the I'll tell you about that in the portable bit. I'm coming on to that in a minute. I'll tell you about that. If I don't mention it, ask me about kite flying.
Okay, will do.
So CW is kind of good, and you can get some really small keys like these up here. They're really good, very small. They call them SOTA and POTA operator keys. It's by Peter, GM0EUL. I haven't got one, but I've seen them, and they're very neat little things, small, and they'll easily fit in a little QRP box that you're going to take up the hills with you or up to the coast. This is that palm paddle that I was talking about, where these 2 paddles slide into the casing, and the whole thing is secure while you transport it. These are my home keys, so they're not going to go out on the road anywhere. But these little ones would. So that's certainly something to bear in mind. There are many keys you can take. Take whichever one you've got, really. So why CW? Well, it allows the most basic of designs. So you can get away with something that's fairly simple and straightforward. And can you imagine how you'd feel if you built something like this circuit in the bottom right? That is really, to me, that just looks beautiful. That does. That's neat. It's all precisely aligned. It's a circuit you could look at and put your multimeter on and check the readings and go sniffing for RF, and the whole thing just feels like it's a radio set that you could understand. And if you'd built it, you'd certainly understand it enough to know what to do if it wasn't hackling properly, because you could get the measurements by looking at the circuit diagram and looking at what it's become. So CW is just so effective at this low power malarkey. And also, the other thing I suppose I should say straight off is that the vast majority, not all, but the vast majority QRP operating is on CW, because that's where people have quite rightly determined you have got the advantage. You have to have an advantage somewhere when you're running only 5 watts. So CW gives you that advantage, and I think you'd have to say if that's where the people are, there's no point working on a bit of the band where there's nobody to talk to. So let's go to the CW end and have a go. So an excellent reason for learning CW in my book, because it just opened up a whole big chunk of the hobby. So lots of QRP activity, and how much satisfaction can you cope with? Can you handle it? 2 bits of satisfaction, CW and homebrew. Just wonderful. But you know, you don't have to build it. You can buy one ready-made. There's loads of these rigs out there. Just a little brief update on the facts and figures of CW as opposed to other modes. This graph shows the the table it's based on. It shows the amount of the band given over to CW in the CW section. So the orange line is the percentage of a band that's CW, and here's the percentages up the y-axis up here. So this one, 30 meters, 80% of the band is CW. So why would you not take advantage of something like that? Even on 80 meters, say, you're going to be sort of up there at about 27%. And this is showing you that the yellow line is the total CW width in kilohertz. Luckily, the same figures work for both scales. So 80 kilohertz on 80 meters. That's a big chunk of CW that you could use. You could fit a lot of QSOs in there compared to sideband. So just leaving you with the thought that CW does give you access to bits of the band which other people won't necessarily be crowding you out on until you get one of these big worldwide sideband contests, and then they're pretty ruthless and they start spreading all over the CW end, which is not good performance. But most of the time, the CW end is fairly uniquely set aside for CW, and you can have some wonderful QSOs. It just really is a great way of enjoying the hobby. So for portable work, this is taken on the top of the cliff top. It's one of those days we don't always get the sunny days. I think I might have been off work that week, so I couldn't press the appropriate buttons for it. But normally it's a nice sunny site up there. And so for QRP work, you don't have to have special antennas for QRP. Why would you? It's the same, but you want to benefit from being portable. So you might, for example, knowing that you're running low power, construct them with lighter construction. So it might be thinner wire. It might be using lightweight insulators. Don't take these great big sort of ceramic bone insulators and egg insulators, quite heavy things. You can take little bits of plastic. I even saw something in the current issue of the Sprat magazine. There we are. Yeah, there we are. So the current issue of the Sprat magazine, there was somebody using curtain hooks as insulators at the end. So you can be resourceful with this. It doesn't have to, nobody's going to need to spend an arm and a leg to put 3 or 4 transistors together and a handful of curtain hooks and some very thin wire. So stroke P is really, really good. You can consider kites for taking your aerial up. These are largely verticals, but what happens if you were to choose to use a kite? One of the problems is if you're in a very windy area, the design, there's a whole different science flying kites. I know there's a guy who does a very good talk on kite flying and amateur radio, and the various structures and design of the kites determines, how much lift they've got and whether they're good for strong wind situations or light winds and so on. But I took a kite up to this event one year, and I ran a Slim Jim on 40 meters. Now, those of you who know Slim Jim antennas will know it's a sort of 3/4 type size vertical for VHF usually, and this was on 40 meters, so you can only imagine what the length of that was. And this was made of it was made with 300 ohm ladder line, and I cut it to the appropriate design for a 40 meter length for a Slim Jim. Okay, the kite did struggle to, I have to say, this kite did struggle to get that cable off the ground. But once it was up there, it was sort of, as we say in Norfolk, on the hoof. It wasn't a vertical, but it was all on the soft, sort of going drawn out with the wind moving the kite. So it was a sloping Slim Jim, but Slim Jim it was. And using this this 817 here that I had with me at the time, I was testing it out, and I worked a Channel Island station on sideband, 5 watts of SSB on 40 meters in the daytime, in the middle of the day, when normally the D-layer absorption would knock it on the head for anything but local. So don't underestimate the power of the power of a kite aerial, providing you can get it to be high enough. But that was one of my most memorable moments for portable on QRP. It just shows what can be done with the right sort of antenna. And this is the other thing, of course. We all live in small sort of gardens. Well, we don't, but a lot of us live in small gardens where we haven't got a freedom of choice for antennas. But if you go out portable somewhere, or if you've got a friendly farmer's field where you could experiment, there's no limit to what sort of antenna you can put together. And what that opens up for you is just an incredible thing. And on the other hand, you could, if you wanted to be entirely stealthy, if you lived in a place where external antennas of any sort are frowned upon, then QRP and very thin bits of wire could be really good. It could allow you to get a signal out and so on. So stroke P operating is for me one of the great delights of QRP working. And this is okay. It's a small subset of the people who were up there at the field day at the West Runcton site. We all park up, and the rigs are either in the boots or on the table alongside them. We sit there in the sunshine and have a good day out. And that's and also it's all about walking up and down the line and seeing what other people have built. It's like a bring and tell, at school that your children do. It's a way of seeing how other people have approached the QRP philosophy and what they've built, what they've done, what they've worked, and so on. And it really is quite an enthusing sort of way of doing it. So just as I'm sure these slides will be retained, and David will put them up eventually, so you can check on the QRP calling frequencies. So it's firstly it's a CW one, and then if there is an SSB one, that comes after an oblique stroke. So you can see all the bands that you might be interested in have all got their specific QRP frequencies. And 7030, we all know on 40 meters, very popular bit of the band. 7090 for sideband. So you could do a lot worse than hang around there, especially in the mornings before the D-layer absorption gets too strong. The main message with all this is when you're operating QRP, the whole business about working it that way is that you're having a great well, I assume you are. You're having a great time out there in the sunshine, sitting on the cliff top. And what you're doing is forcing the other person at the other end to work a bit harder than they normally would to copy your signal, because you're a little bit down on the other signals that they might be working. And there are people who get in a mindset of only talking to the big strong signals on the band, and that's fine. People can choose who they want to work. So you're going to have a hard job breaking through that. So you are forcing people to do that little bit of extra work to try and copy your signal if it is a bit marginal. So be considerate of what they're doing. So make sure you use the correct phonetics for your call sign and give it each over. Don't once you're underway think all you got to do is gabble the call sign again. Make sure you do it fully with phonetics. Make sure you describe name and report and QTH several times. Don't just do it once in a rush thinking you're on 150 watts of rig at home somewhere with a big antenna. So think about the other station, but certainly if you're new to it, then try hovering around the QRP frequencies. Don't just call randomly in amongst the mayhem of the bands where all the big signals are. Because the other thing with QRP is it's not so much that your signal's weak, it is that you're in a received bandwidth at the other end alongside very strong stations, and your signal is a weak one in amongst all that. So for them to stand a chance, you've got to try and find a slot that's away from some of the bigger signals, which is why these calling frequencies make a lot of sense, because that's where the majority of the weaker signals will be. And people get used to listening around there, not on there necessarily. You can spread out because there'll nearly always be more than one QRP station active at any one time. But you'll get through. You will get through. And the other thing is, when you have another little operating technique would be if you're chasing a bit of rare DX. Now I know pile-ups, you can. I tend not to do these because it just takes such a long time sitting on the band in a pile-up, trying to get the queue to get 599 from somebody to tick another course on it. Now, if you're collecting them, that's fine, but it is a lot of time to get just that one response. Now, when you QRP, you've not only got to do that same thing, but you've tied one hand behind your back by running lower power. So the best way to maximise your odds there, have a think about waiting till the last day of the expedition, the last day of the activity, or towards the end of the day, when all the people, the big guns who want to work that station, have done that, and you've got a little bit more clear frequency either side of them to get in and get your QSO. So this again is about one of the other elements of working QRP. It sort of forces you to think of other operating techniques that can make a difference. It really is a satisfying thing when you get through in those under those conditions. So the other thing that you've got to do, of course, when you're operating QRP is not to operate QRP when the band is shut. So down in here in the early hours of the morning, this is the PropQuest website, which these days only seems to capture data from Dorbs in Belgium, but it's good enough for the southern half of the UK as a general gist of things. And you're going to struggle in here. You really are going to struggle. But then the band picks up, and this is a 3,000 kilometre path MUF. So a shallow angle, if you were using a shallow angle, then that would give you anything up to 28 megs or beyond. So you can tell what time of the day the bands might be open. Now lower down here, the 7 meg band, although it's well in the zone, the D-layer absorption might actually snuff that out in here. So you'll find that's not quite so easy. But then you get a lucky break and you might get some sporadic E. Now, remember, well, don't remember because I probably haven't told you, but sporadic E we think of as being a VHF thing, 6 meters, 4 meters, 2 meters, that sort of thing, mainly summertime season. This purple spike here is a sporadic E patch drifting across the site at Dorbs. Now, that gives you a real boost in terms of your signals, but it isn't just for VHF. It also gives you a bonus on HF. So let's say we were running 7 megs, which is this line here. Where are we? It's this green dotted line in here. 7 megs. This spike on this occasion, and it was only a few days ago. So we're not in the main sporadic E season, but it just got above 7 megs. So at that point, you could think, oh well, there might be some scope for doing a sporadic E QSO using 7 megs with a QRP rig. So just bear in mind that propagation can influence things a lot, but there'll be very obvious signs of these when it won't help you much. And so you just got to maximise the time when it does it. And if you get used to looking at these graphs in real time and relating them to what you hear on the band, you'll be surprised how much more you'll get out of the behaviour of the bands. And the same with flares. We had a whole succession, I think about 3 days of consecutive X-class flares recently. So I haven't checked the graph for today, but you get the idea. There's data out there that will help you to decide what's worth doing on QRP or not. So the other thing to bear in mind is something I alluded to a little while ago. QRP has to fight with not just big signals either side of you, but it has to fight with operators with big noise floors. You've got huge levels of noise nowadays in any place where you've got houses around you. So just think about what they're up against at that end. You're going to need to call a few times. You're going to need to repeat the important bits. Don't worry, it's not saying QRP is bad. It's saying that it has to do harder work to cope with the modern conditions and get yourself into an advantageous position. So the other thing is, if you're listening on the band with a QRP rig and you're hearing signals, you think, oh, yeah, the band's 40 meters, signals coming in. I'll get the QRP rig on. It may be that all these other stations are QRO. QRO means high power. So don't think that because you hear something, it means it's a QRP band. It may be that you're only hearing the big kilowatt stations or 100-watt stations, and it's not really in a good enough shape for QRP. So you've got to be a bit subjective about how you dip on. But the old rule of thumb here with this is amateur radio is all about enjoying the hobby and having QSOs and doing things that you like doing. Now, you'll never know what the band is like if you don't put out a CQ call. So put out a CQ call, and you'll be surprised. You might find the band is in better shape than you think. So how big a disadvantage is it being QRP? I've just done a little table here just to throw some numbers into it. So here's QRP, 5 watts going across the top here, and then you move into the QRPP zones, 1 watt, 100 milliwatts, 1 milliwatt. So compared with the 100-watt station, a QRP at 5 watts is 13 dBs down. That's quite a big difference. Is it really? 6 dBs per S point on an S meter, 2 S points. These are manageable numbers if you concentrate on making the aerial good. And the point about this is that although you can look up these scary numbers and think, nah, QRP, not for me, it is surmountable. This isn't the obstacle you think it is, because a decent aerial could get a lot of this disadvantage back. A decent aerial will have directionality, and it may actually be better in the direction, if you're out portable, where you can move it, than the fixed home antenna. So there's all sorts of ways in which you can offset the disadvantage. So just staying on the left-hand side of this, so contributions to the signal loss after you've sent your QRP signal out. Well, you've obviously got to consider antenna gains. There's the receiver thermal noise. There's the local band noise from the neighbour's washing machine or car battery charger or whatever. There's your RX noise figure. There's all sorts of things going on here which affect how your signal sounds at the end of the receive chain. And then the mode employed. Well, these ones here don't know about mode. They don't mind what the mode is. So the only thing that affects the performance at the other end is going to be, compared to sideband, this is a sideband CW question, CW or SSB. Well, the CW SSB advantage is it's largely a function of the receiver noise bandwidth. So if you've got a narrow bandwidth, you've got less noise in there than if you've got a wide bandwidth for sideband. So if you just took round figures for the sake of argument, there's a 10 dB advantage for CW in terms of the background noise bandwidth. It's worth having. So another reason why I probably am forced to say, if you're not a CW person, you don't have to be a fast CW person to do QRP. You just have to be able to do some of it enough to get the essentials of it, and consider making this winter one of your projects to have a go at it. And some of the rigs, as you've seen, will decode CW in a little window, a bit like some of the programs you can get on PCs. That can help you when you're starting. But don't make it stop you building a QRP rig, because you can get by. So one S point is about 6 dBs. So QRP down about 2 S points you could cope with. A CW as opposed to SSB, you've got about a 10 dB advantage there. So you've nearly grabbed all of that back from not running 100 watts but running 5 watts. You've lost almost what you could gain by going to CW instead of SSB. It's sort of a slight disadvantage, but only to encourage you to do some of the skills better, understanding propagation, building the best antenna you can, and so on. But it's not such a big disadvantage. I think if I can do one thing here, it'll be to say QRP is an enjoyable subset of any mode and band that you're operating. It's not the only way to live, but it does give you a lot of satisfaction when you actually get a QSO. So going portable is top fun. It really is. Like, here's one on a good day. So you get days where going portable. Look at that bright sunny day, warm. I mean, what's not to like? It just is such a good way of going portable. And you can try all sorts of different antennas. On this occasion, I had a vertical up there. On other occasions, I've taken a delta loop, which sits on an old tripod. You can spend the winter reading up on what sort of antennas, and you can make up some nice thin wire antennas, or you can make up some delta loops or whatever. Just go and enjoy it. Have a packing list. If you're going to put together a set of portable stuff, make sure you build up a regular list of things that you need to take with you. You'll soon do a couple of these trips and find out what you've left off the list. Believe me, I did one once and had gone all the way out there and hadn't taken any batteries. So you can. It's a G3 thing. Most of you won't be affected, but you can get caught out by that. So have a packing list. But as in that picture before, do take the time to test your station at home, putting it up, putting it together. And the best advice to begin with is start with a single band and simple antennas. There's nothing wrong with taking a very simple monoband QRP rig, say for 20 meters, take a 20-meter dipole or a vertical, and go and have some fun. You would be surprised. So kite antennas, I really think are great fun, but you've got to be on a windy day. Some days are just not windy enough, so don't go there portable with all the kite gear and then not have any wind. You've got to take other antennas as well. QRP does work, and as I said, on my sideband contact on 40 down to Channel Islands, using the 40-meter Slim Jim, you can do it. It's just harder work than CW. Plan for an easy setup and take down. Over the weeks and the trips out, you'll get used to knowing what works and what doesn't, and how to refine things and so on. Plan for rain, even if it doesn't. Now, seriously, I can't stress that enough. Showers can be vicious little things, and they're small. They don't often get forecast well in the models in terms of the location of where they are. So if there's a chance of a shower, make sure you've got something that will keep the gear dry, or have a version of your stroke portable life that includes stroke portable within the vehicle. Have all of this palaver here outside the back. Have it so it's in the car and you just lean over the seat and operate from within the car. This is something that's really important. Most of us, when we go portable, we're on public land quite often, like this car park at West Runton, or you're on a farmer's field. And what you don't want to be doing is losing spiky tent pegs and pegs of any sort, metal objects down in the grass that you can't see. So it may appear to be a little bit, I don't know whether I want a bright pink tent peg. Well, it will save you a lot of hassle if you can't find it at the end of the day when it started raining. You've really got to think about these things. And also think about having bright insulation tape tags on the wires. So if you've got a dipole that's an inverted V coming down to near ground level, tie little streamers of coloured insulation tape, brightly coloured tape, off the wires, just to stop people, because there'll be people nearby who come and have a look, and you don't want them walking into it. So what else we got to do? You've got to remember to charge your batteries before you go. Don't have all your stuff in a nice, easy to take box, and then realise when you get there that you've got a flat battery, that you haven't charged it up. So take a spare battery. Solar panels, like I've got one propped up on there, have one to provide some emergency power for QRP-may. Don't forget your support poles and guy wires. It's easy to take the pole and then forget the box, separate box that's got all the pulleys and the guy wires, even the antenna. So have that. That's the point about having the list. Have the checklist, and then just remember it's a showcase point for the public. You'll get people coming past who don't know amateur radio, who aren't familiar with the hobby. They're going to be a little bit sort of nervous about coming up to you. You're sort of there very intensely doing things. Be prepared to look up and engage with them and explain to them what the hobby's about and tell them what you're doing. It's our chance to showcase what we do as a hobby. So that's an important point. Now we're going to finish up with. We okay for time, David?
Yeah, absolutely fine. Yeah.
Yeah, good. I'm just on the last bit now, which is to try and draw together some of the support groups that you've got if you want to go QRP. Now, the GQRP club is the club for the UK people to get involved in. It's a great group, and George, when he was alive, is silent key now, sadly, but he came up and did a lovely talk to us at the club, and he stayed with me for the period, and we had a really nice session there, and he had a load of time for us to talk about QRP. And as I said, the magazine is just an excellent item for finding out what the hobby's got, and you also get little write-ups in the back. There's almost like a diary of and adverts for components, but you get a diary of people doing things. I'm not going to struggle too much with this, I don't think. There we go. You get a diary of what people have been working and the gear they've used. Very enthusing, that, to see what people have actually been putting together. There's the Fists CW Club, which also has a great magazine, a periodical, and you'll get loads of support for obviously CW, but lots of the comments you get and the circuits, if there are circuits in the periodical that month, they're all very good for sideband as well as CW. So, and antennas as well. So that's a good source of information. And then you get the collectors. So one of the things that often happens or can happen is that you can use QRP Portable as a way of activating some rare things. So it could be an Islands on the Air. IOTA is a really great group for activating rare islands. So that's a terrific thing to listen out for. They tend to be these days big multi-million-pound expeditions, which are good, but they're not the sort of the QRP things, because they have a job to do in a rare place, very expensive to get to. They just don't want to have 2 or 3 QSOs in an afternoon. So that's different, but it's a good organisation for tracking down rare things. And when I say rare things, using 5 watts to work these people isn't such a disadvantage as you might think. on 40 meters, I have worked using a combination of rigs, homebrew QRP rigs, the FT817, the main station rig tuned down to 5 watts. I've worked about 115 countries now, 115 countries on 5 watts, on 40 meters, from a small garden. So don't ever feel that you can't work the rare stuff. You can. You just have to, as I said earlier on, you've got to be a bit sort of strategic about when you go in. Wait till towards the end of the activation, things like that. Summits on the air. Here's a good one. We don't do summits on the air very well in East Anglia, I have to say. It's kind of a hard thing to get too enthused about. So we'd have to go to other parts of the country to get up on the tops of big hills. But there's nothing to stop us activating, say, other significant things. It could be WAB squares. It could be BOTA, IOTA, BOTA, SOTA, and all the other POTAs, parks on the air. There are so many different groups now that activate rare things that you could do all that on QRP. You could give yourself a little edge and get satisfaction from doing that. So have a look at their websites and see where they are, and perhaps go on and you don't just have to try and work them. You're a QRP station, you can set up anywhere. Go and set up next door to one and operate. I know we've got people in the club. Gordon, I think, goes out and does his BOTA stuff. So there's a lot of potential for having fun on a QRP expedition doing that. Parks on the air. We've got quite a few, but this happens to be a page grab from the States mainly, but there's one UK one in there. So parks on the air is another thing you can try and work. Okay, you could work it on high power, but just think of the satisfaction of working it on QRP. Awesome. And then you have YouTube videos for various different subgroups. There's loads of stuff on YouTube for amateur radio, but there are things for QRP. You've got all sorts of things. QRP labs. There's SDR transceiver there. T40. Well, anyway, QRP, ham radio, QRP in action. So no end to the things that can inspire you to do something different there. And it you never know what can happen. This happened to me. I was thrilled to bits. So I thought, one CQ Worldwide, so the biggest international contest that you get these days, on CW, I thought I'll use the station at home, tuned down to 5 watts, and just go on and see what I can work. Do it like a proper contest. I could never get anywhere in any contest with a normal full power station competing with the big guns. Here, I was the #1 station in England using QRP. So amazing, chuffed to bits with that. And that came from just picking the battle. You're not going to win against the kilowatts. You're not going to win on some of the big station categories, but you could do a very creditable position, just picking your niche area and going with that. So why bother with QRP? Well, small outlay, enormous returns, just so much to get back from QRP. Anyway, there we are. You've withstood the QRP bulletin very well. I hope some of you will feel you want to have a play, and I'm very happy to talk to anybody on 450 or anywhere about how to approach it and whatever. But there's so much stuff out there online, you're going to have no trouble getting yourself into that. Anyway, thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Jim. So much you covered there. Actually, it isn't just about the QRPs. You said there's a whole different way of thinking, and it's not just the equipment's turned down to 5 watts. A completely different way of thinking. And as you say, for many people, especially I took from that, if you've got challenges with aerials, antennas, and putting them up at home, then this is a great mode that you could probably do lots of different things if you would just wind your power down. So Lots of things to think about. I'm sure that people watching have got questions and comments to make. We've already had quite a few. It won't surprise you to know, Jim. So I'll start with those. But as ever, if you have any questions or comments for Jim, now will be the time to put them either onto BATC or Facebook chat, and we'll read as many as we can to Jim. So I start with here with lots of people joining. And firstly, I think it's slightly tongue-in-cheek. It won't surprise you to know. 2M0RHT says, Ralph, I like Jim's approach. 5 whiskies is exciting and fun. I often work QRP. 1 kilowatt is power but can destroy others' enjoyment. Sorry, Jim. What is CW? I use a funny thing called a microphone. Just quoting, don't blame me. Don't shoot the messenger.
No, that's all right, Ralph. We'll welcome you to the dark side. Don't worry.
Okay, we've got a question there. Just CW carrier wave. I'm not quite sure why that was put in. I think that's Brian, I believe. Oh, it's a reply, is it, to a question? Okay, on Facebook. Mike M7TTT said, did Jim mention CW?
I don't think I did. Do you want me to? I can.
Maybe. And Tom Miller, G6TOM. Do I need a new microphone if I go to CW? Asking for a friend, he says. Don't worry, they're not all like this, Jim. Don't worry. Graham, G8WNC, completely agree with Jim. QRP makes you aware of how to optimize antenna and hone your operating style, a great sense of achievement. Which is very fair. Right. Some other questions. Tony, G0MQG. This is a question for you, Jim. Hi, Jim. Wasn't there a club called the Million Miles Per Watt Club? You have to be able to work the equivalent of 1 million miles with 1 watt of RF, or 1,000 miles with 1 milliwatt of RF.
I haven't heard of the million miles per watt. I've heard of the 1,000 miles per watt club. But obviously, you can make your challenges how you want them. But I'll have to look that one up, Tony. I'm not sure if there is a million miles per watt. Would that be possible? Would be difficult. Well, I suppose you could do it with space communication.
Yeah, I mean, 1 milliwatt is a very, very little power, isn't it? He also asks, some operators of rare DX stations listen for QRP. So some people listen, for example, G0QMG / QRP. So calling your call sign QRP sometimes works. I guess what he's saying is that some people are just listening out for low power stations.
Yeah, so some of the operators at special event stations, for example, will make a special period in their operating where they say, now let's listen, like when we do at Haysborough or some of the special events, railways on the air and things. You can say, let's take any QRP stations. I don't think you're meant to sign your call sign stroke QRP. I think that's strictly not an official call sign construction, but you can say G3YLA QRP. That's quite acceptable, and as you say, Tony, that will get you your foot through the door, in a busy band.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. I think the rules have relaxed recently, haven't they, with suffixes, and that may be what he's referring to there. Bruce G4KZT says, hi, Jim. I totally agree that the GQRP Club is a great way to learn about QRP. The annual subscription is a bargain at £6, which he doesn't think has changed for over 40 years. I wonder how they do that.
It's excellent. I mean, I've been a member since a long while, probably 35 years or so. Not long after it started, and it very quickly got off the ground. It was, my membership number's 4,000 and something. I'm not sure where they're up to now, but the thing is, it just captures so many of those nice bits of amateur radio. The home construction, the adventure of going out portable, limited equipment, focusing on good quality antennas, all that sort of stuff. GQRP sort of sums it all up in their little magazine sprat. So have a look at it. See if you can go on their website. There might be an old issue of it there that you can flick through to gauge what it's like. But definitely have a look.
Yeah, and I think there's actually a couple of the older editions at the club at meeting when we meet at CNS, Jim. I think there's some in the cupboard there. So if you want to have a look at one of those, do let us know. £6 for anything which gives you real in paper physical magazine is incredible value, as you say, especially if you know a little bit about construction. You can look at a circuit diagram and then convert that into like you said, dirty construction, PCB or maybe variable or something like that. Another question for you, I think. Henry M0ZAE says POTA, or Parks on the Air, is often CW or QRP. I think he might have said that actually before you mentioned it, Jim, to be honest. So I think that was he was just adding to that. And Roger G3YLA says, I can't believe this must be a misprint. Even LDI does QRP sometimes.
I know, it's outrageous, isn't it? I assume it must have been an aberration.
As you were saying, Jim, I mean, for those who maybe don't feel brave enough to take a circuit diagram and then get raw components and put them onto a piece of spare fiberglass circuit board or something like that, there are some great kits, and QRP Labs is one of those kits, isn't it? And you mentioned, I think you're building a multi-mode one, so maybe that's the QMX, the new kit?
Or yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a multi-mode one, and I'll have to bring it along to the club when I've finished it. But generally speaking, most of the kits that get released either from Hans Summers and the QRP Labs and the other people who make, there are loads of people out there making really good kits. There's Walford Electronics, there's the BATC people. There are so many. You couldn't sort of single out one or the other. I happen to single out QCX Hans Summers kits because they're the ones I built, so I've got personal experience of them. The thing about it is, you think a lot of these things are going to be big jobs, and actually they're not. They're just jobs that demand patience and a deliberate approach. That you don't want to rush it. You want to be able to do it carefully, and then if it doesn't work, find somebody who understands the circuit and get them to help you fine tune it and adjust it and so on. It's just a shame when people don't have a chance to experience the satisfaction that can come from building a piece of kit. And it's almost like when I got my license back in the late 60s, and Roger and others will have all gone down this road, where there weren't really commercial rigs. You had ex-wartime surplus receivers type of thing, or you built your own gear, and everybody built their own gear. And the satisfaction that we got doing that then is something which you get now from doing these kits or starting with an ugly bug construction from a circuit diagram or whatever. And it's just, you don't know till you try it. It may not be the thing for you, but it just might be.
Yeah, and I agree. And actually, it's given me an idea. I mean, something very simple and informal. But what we could do in the new year is have a meeting at the CNS school and just call it a QRP evening, where people can bring along rigs and antennas and their portable rigs and everything else. And then maybe that would inspire people to have a go at building stuff before the summer for things like Radio by the Seaside. As you mentioned, that would be a good thing, wouldn't it? I know quite a few people have built the QMX. I think we did a bulk buy of something like 7 or 8 of them. Martin springs to mind, but there's several others as well. And we should say with that, by the way, there's lots of very small components, surface mount components on it, but it comes with those pre-assembled onto the circuit board, doesn't it, Jim?
It does. All the surface mount stuff is pre loaded on the board. But I think nowadays, I'm not sure if I'm right, but it's worth checking up. You can certainly get some QRP rigs that are ready built, but you can also I think get the ready built versions of the QRP Labs ones as well.
You can. I actually had a look, to be honest, Jim, just before we came on air, and it's $125 at the moment for a QMX, which is the one which is multi-modes and multi-band. So if you've got that, which is about £100 approximately, that will be plus delivery. So it's around about £100 in our money, and that's for the kit. But it's another $60, so about £50 if you want them to make it up for you. And I think that's a shame. I mean, obviously it's up to you, but I would also say, and I know I'm pushing the club again, promoting the club here, but the club has got a lot of people who are very experienced with construction, and lots of people would be willing to help you, especially if you would like to let me know beforehand that you're doing it. Then we could advertise it, and then somebody who's built that particular kit, for example, and the QRP Labs ones are very popular, we can make sure and sort of, get you to meet up on a club night to have a look at it. So, and the other thing I could just say as well, I'm sure Martin wouldn't mind me saying, is he made a QMX and he had a problem and he couldn't make it transmit, and he's quite experienced constructor and he just couldn't sort it. And he spoke to or saw Hans Summers actually at the convention this year. He was at the RSGB convention and he gave it to him, and he's going to sort it out for him and send it back. So there is that service as well. So don't feel that if you run out of steam and you can't get someone from the club to help you, that you definitely can get some extra help. Need to return to some questions if I can, Mike. Jim. Mike Simmons, M7TTT says, very interesting, Jim, thanks. Can I download that QRP chart from somewhere? I'm happy to forward it to him, by the way, if you want.
Yeah, please do. I'm not sure which chart he means.
Okay, well, Mike, if you could tell us what that is, or maybe are you willing to let me have your set of slides, Jim, as a PDF? Are you happy for that?
Yeah,
well, if you are, if you send that to me at some point in the next few days, Jim, I will forward one to Mike. If you could send me an email to remind me. And anybody else who would like a copy of those slides to remind you of what they said. And the only thing I think you'd say probably, Jim, is, don't do another presentation for it. It is your copyright, but you're happy for people to look at it and use them, aren't you?
Indeed.
Thank you.
This is all about encouraging people to get more fun out of the hobby. Incidentally, something I didn't say, we spoke of the 1 watt challenge, which is really, really low power. And Roger admitted to taking part in it. Roger didn't just take part, he won it.
He's actually put a little note now. I've just seen it. He said, I did win the 1 watt challenge. Yeah,
he is QRP Master Lord.
Did he forget to plug the linear in or something then?
I think he must have had a power cut.
James M1TES says, I had lots of fun activating a trig last Sunday on 40 metres using 5 watts from an IC705.
Perfect.
Yeah, I mean, it isn't just the powerful rigs, is it? 705 has been out a few years now. There's that new Yaesu one, is it FTDX1? They do as a portable version as well. Very small rigs. So just to wrap up, I don't think we've got any more questions. Have I missed any, Tammy? I don't think so. No. You said about the instructions being good with the QCX and QMX, and they are really excellent instructions, by the way. If you do like contesting, as many people do in this club, and we are, we're right up there when it comes to contests, what would you say to a contester who's used to using his 100 watts plus about doing a QRP contest? Is it more challenging, would you say?
Not necessarily, because when you're mixing it with the big boys, with your home station running 100 watts, you are suffering a disadvantage compared to the people running a kilowatt. Not all of us run kilowatt amplifiers, so you already have an equivalent disadvantage. So by moving down to QRP and operating in a QRP section, you can actually be operating at the top limit of the power for that contest. Whereas if you're in a normal one with no limitations, you're running your normal home station at 100 watts and everybody else on the continent is running a kilowatt, or in the UK a lot of them are. So you give yourself a little bit of a help there, but I think with anything, it's just try a few days working QRP outside of a contest, because contests, actually, I'll have to confess this, contests are great places ordinarily in amateur radio for increasing your country's score, aren't they? Because if you've got somebody on a rare island in the Caribbean and they want to win that contest, they're going to strive to hear that weak signal, and that means you stand a chance of getting through, which on a normal day of the week they might not do that. They might go back to a strong signal from Europe rather than a weak 5-watt one, which is my point about going up to the QRP part of the band. So why not, instead of picking a QRP contest per se, there are some. I think PW do one in the summer, and I think there are low power contests that the RSGB do. But notwithstanding contests, just say today I'm going to do QRP. So this weekend I will spend Sunday just doing QRP. And you never know, you might surprise yourself, and that will be the best way to do it. And then if you find that works for you, or if it shows up problems with your antennas or things like that, then have a think about what to do to put that right. But it'll prove to you that you can get QSOs, QRP. And if you have a power cut, I've got a power cut coming up here next week. They're doing some work on the electricity supply out in the street somewhere at a transformer, so it'll all go quiet. And my S6 noise floor will go, which will be wonderful, except so will my main rig. So if I get my QRP rig set up with a charged battery, I can have a lovely hour and a half playing on QRP from home with the big aerials and low noise floor. How good is that?
That'll be brilliant. What a great way to end this program. There we are. If you do get the bad news of having a power cut, and most of us have had that, I think, in the last few years as they're upgrading the power supplies, use it as an opportunity to try QRP and see what you can do. Jim, as ever, it's been such a joy to have you here. We're very lucky to have a lot of talent inside our club, and you're certainly one of those. And so thank you for sharing it with us. And if anybody would like a copy of your slides, just drop me an email, and Jim will send it to me, and then I'll pop that email. I'll put them on a PDF back to you. But Jim, once again, good to see you. Thank you very much for this evening. There is more to life than high power, isn't there?
Certainly is. Thanks, David and Tammy, for looking after us.
Thanks very much, Jim. Thank you. There we are. It's nice to have, it's lovely to have speakers. We have speakers from all over the world and meet lots of different people, but it is so lovely as well when we see friends of the club and members of the club as well do it. If you've got a talk in you, by the way, and you're a member of this club, we would love to hear from you as well. Jim, Roger is always looking out for new speakers, so do keep in touch with that. But that is it for this evening. Just to remind you what's happening this week. On Sunday, we've got the GBTRS News on GB3MB at 7 o'clock. On Monday Night Net with Steve G3YLA on GB3NB. And we have the next Wednesday, we're back meeting at CNS on November the 26th for an informal evening with Bright Sparks between 7 and 9:30. And that is the last meeting this year. And don't forget to keep sending us your stories and your mystery objects.
Yep.
Tammy, were you pointing to something down there?
I was. Mike G4DYC just put a point on. I just thought it would be...
Yes, a good one. Yeah. Mike G4DYC just put a note on BATC. It says, note the QRP Labs rigs QCX Plus, etc. now do the Polar SSB system, similar to latest Flex rig. 7.3 Mike G4DYC. Yeah, absolutely. That is a really exciting, very efficient mode. Hans did a talk about it. Did he do it to us, or was it the RSGB? I can't remember which.
The RSGB convention.
Convention.
Oh,
yeah.
No, he did do it.
I can't remember. We see so many of these things. But anyway, there's a great talk.
I forget now.
No, it's a great talk. Someone invented the Polar system of modulation a long time ago, and it's only now coming into rigs, like Mike says, on things like the expensive big Flex systems, but also on low power rigs like this, and it makes a huge difference. They're so efficient. They run really cold and push it. Most of your power goes into the aerial and not into the power transistors, so keep an eye on it for that. That is it though for now. If you would like us to do that Christmas online special sort of quizzy, competition-y fun night on the 10th of December, please do let us know, because if we don't have enough support for it, obviously it's an interactive evening, and then we'll try and think of something else. But until we see each other again in 2 weeks' time on NARC Live, I hope to see some of you at the school next week. But until then, from Tammy.
Bye-bye.
And for me, David G7YLP. Take care of yourselves. Look after each other. Bye-bye.